Morning students. Today we are going to learn about the financial decisions, and these financial decisions are very important for any organization. It means the selection of best financing alternative or best investment alternative. A financial decision making is concerned with three broad categories or three broad decisions, and these decisions are investment decision, financing decision, and dividend decision. Let's see about each of them one by one. So our first decision is investment decision. Investment decision means a decision which is taken for acquiring fixed assets, and we know that we have to acquire only those fixed assets which have highest possible returns. So the investment decision therefore relates to how the firm funds are invested in different assets. It can be long term or short term. A short term investment decision is called a capital budgeting decision, and it involves committing the finance on long term basis. For example, making investment in new machine to replace an existing. So here overall we can see that investment decision is related with acquiring or purchasing fixed assets to get the best returns, and it is always a long term decision. It is known as capital budgeting decision. For example, purchasing a new machinery or replacing the existing one. Now we have the some more features of investment decision, that one or acquiring new fixed assets or opening a new branch, etc. are also examples. The decisions of investment are very crucial for any business because they affect our earning capacity. The size of assets, the profitability, and the competitiveness are all affected by the capital budgeting decision. Moreover, these decisions normally involve huge amount of investment and are irreversible. Irreversible here means once these decisions are taken, we cannot reverse them, because or we can say, suppose we have purchased a land, constructed a building, then after we think that this decision is not good, let's start again. So it's not possible. Who will buy our building? It is constructed according to our choices. So that's why these are called irreversible, and if we try to reverse them, then it will become a huge cost or huge loss to us. Therefore, once made, it is often almost impossible for a business to wriggle out of such decision. Therefore, they need to be taken with utmost care, obviously. These decisions must be taken by those who understand them comprehensively. Next point is factors affecting capital budgeting decisions. So there are several factors which affect the capital budgeting decision, and these are: first one is cash flows of the project. Cash flows means inflow or outflow of cash. When a company takes an investment decision involving huge amount, it expects to generate some cash flows over a period. These cash flows are in the form of a series of cash receipts and payments over the life of an investment. So there some cash is coming and some is going out. So overall we prepare the cash flow of the project. The amount of these cash flows should be carefully analyzed before considering a capital budgeting decision. So it is a type of plan, because here actual transactions are not happening, and we are just preparing the budget that if we purchase a particular machinery, how much cash we will receive and how much we will pay, and what will be the impact of such cash flow projection. Next point is the rate of return. The most important criteria is the rate of return of the project. These calculations are based on the expected returns from each proposal and the assessment of risk involved. Suppose there are two projects, project A and project B, with the same risk involved, with a rate of return of 10% and 12% respectively, then under normal circumstances project B will be selected. So it is very common technique that the project or the alternative which give us better result will be selected. What is the investment criteria involved? The decision to invest in a particular project involve a number of calculations regarding the amount of investment, rate of interest, cash flow and rate of return. There are different techniques to evaluate investment proposal which are known as capital budgeting techniques. These techniques are applied to each proposal before selecting a particular project. So here we have to understand that there are various techniques, but we need not to explain any of the technique. We just to name them as investment, interest, cash flow, rate of return, or generally or commonly we can say capital budgeting techniques. Now we have next decision, that is financing decision. In the financing decision, we have to decide how much finance we have to raise. So this decision is about quantum of finance. Quantum here means quantity of finance, and which should be raised from various sources. The sources may be long term or short term. It involves identification of various available resources. The main sources of funds of a firm are shareholders funds and borrowed funds, or we can say owners fund and borrowed fund. Shareholder fund means equity share capital and retained earning, and borrowed funds here means debentures or bank loan. A firm has to decide the proportion of funds to be raised from either source based on their basic characteristics. So the proportion must be decided in advance. Interest on borrowed fund have to be paid regardless of whether or not a firm has made a profit. If we increase a debt component in our capital structure, so it will be a difficulty, because if we are not getting the profit, then also we have to pay the interest. The next one is the borrowed fund have to be repaid at a fixed time, and the risk of default on payment is known as financial risk. Suppose we are not able to pay the interest or the principal amount, then it is known as financial risk. So we have to take care of this. And shareholder funds on the other hand involve no commitment regarding payment of returns or repayment of capital. A firm therefore need to have a judicious mix of both debt and equity in making financing decision. Judicious mix here means that a proper blending or mixture of two sources of finance, that is debt and equity. The cost of each type of finance is estimated. Some source may be cheaper than others. Like debt is cheapest of all the sources because debt has a greatest advantage of tax deductibility. Therefore, it is very cheaper, and the risk associated with different source of finance is also different. So the associated risk is also different for each source, like it is necessary to pay interest on debt and redeem the principal amount on maturity. Here the word redeem means repayment of a loan. There is no such compulsion to pay any dividend on equity shares. We all know that equity shareholders are the residual owner. Thus, there is some amount of financial risk in debt financing. Means in equity financing there is no risk, but in debt financing there is financial risk. The overall financial risk depends on the proportion of debt in the total capital. If the proportion of debt is more, then financial risk will be more. If it is less, then we have less financial risk. The fundraising exercise also costs something. This cost is called flotation cost, which means the expenses which we incurred while we are issuing our shares or debentures. It also must be considered while evaluating different sources. Financing decision is thus concerned with the decision about how much to be raised. So first of all, we must have a plan that how much amount of capital would be raised from the debt and how much is raised from equity. This decision determines the overall cost of capital and the financial risk of the enterprise, because both are in a particular proportion. Now our main topic is factors affecting financing decision. So there are a lot of factors given, and in the examination we have to write only 6 factors or explain any 4 factors also, but for your knowledge we have to learn each and every point. So let's start with the first point, that is cost. Now in all these points you have to remember that every time you have to focus that whether debt is beneficial or equity is beneficial. Means in each and every point we have to compare the debt and equity as a source of finance. Like in first point, the cost of raising funds through different sources is different. A prudent financial manager would normally opt for a source which is cheapest, and we know that debt is cheaper. So in the first point, debt is the main point, that we can raise fund from debt. Second point, the risk associated with different sources different. Now the risk with the equity is negligible, but the risk associated with the debt is more. Therefore, on the basis of this point we will opt for equity share, because there is no risk in equity share. Next one is flotation cost. Higher the flotation cost, less attractive the source. So generally the flotation cost of equity is more as compared to debt. So it can be calculated, generally sometime it is almost equal. So it depends that how much we spent on flotation. Then only we can decide that which fund or which source of fund is opted. Next one is cash flow of the business. Now cash flow position of the business here means whether we have a stronger cash position or we may have a weaker cash flow position. If we have a stronger cash flow position, we can opt debt financing, and if we are weaker on cash, then we can opt for equity financing. Because if we are having good cash flow position, then only we are able to pay the interest and principal amount on time. If we have weaker cash flow, we cannot opt for debt financing. Then the equity is the only choice. Next point is level of fixed operating cost, or we can say fixed cost. If a business has high level of fixed cost like building rent, insurance premium, salaries, etc., it must opt for lower fixed financing cost. Here lower debt financing is better. Similarly, if fixed operating cost is less, more of debt financing can be preferred. So overall, we can see that in all the points, main focus is on the debt financing, whether we can opt for debt financing or not. If the fixed operating cost is higher, then we can opt lower debt financing. If it is low, then we can opt more of debt financing. Next point is control consideration. As we know, in all the companies there are shareholders. Suppose there is only one shareholder in case of one person company, then 100% share is with him. If he add one more member as a shareholder in the form of a private company, then the proportion of each member would be 50-50%. If they add one more person there, then it will be 33%. So every time when one person is added, the proportion of existing member is reducing. So we can also take this issue that whether we want the dilution of control or not. If there is no effect of dilution of control, then we can have equity financing. But if we does not want to dilute our control or shareholders control, then we must have to opt for debt financing, because sometimes the company is afraid of a takeover, that others might purchase our company or take over the company. 51% share would be on their side and 49 with our side. So there is a problem of control. So if we want good control, then we always must opt for debt financing. If there is no issue of dilution of control, then we can opt for equity financing. So it depends on the company's situation. Next is state of capital market. Health of the capital market may also affect the choice of source of fund. During the period when stock market is rising, more people are ready to invest in equity. However, in a depressed capital market, public prefer to invest in debt or debentures. So it is also a trend, and it is not totally our option or choice that which type of source we will select. If stock market is favoring equity, then we have to issue equity. If it is favoring debt, then we have to issue debt. Next point is dividend decision. Dividend is that portion of profit which is distributed to shareholders. The decision involved here is how much of the profit earned by a company after paying tax is to be distributed to the shareholder, and how much of it should be retained in the business for meeting the investment requirement. Or we can say, when a company earns some profit, it has to pay certain compulsory expenses like government dues in the form of tax, interest on debentures or interest on bank loan, and at last for the equity shareholder they can distribute dividend. So at that point of time they had to decide whether to distribute dividend or not. If they do not distribute the dividend, it means they are retaining it. We can also name it as retained earning. And if they are distributing, how much they are trying to distribute, means their proportion of distribution. So we have to decide in the dividend decision whether to distribute it or not, and if yes, then in which percentage. The extent of retained earnings also influence the financing decision of the firm. Since the firm does not require funds to the extent of reinvest reinvested retained earnings, and the decision regarding dividend should be taken keeping in view with the overall objective of maximizing shareholders' wealth. It is the main objective of every organization that they must always try to maximize the shareholders' wealth. And who is shareholder? The owner of the company, who is providing funds to us. So if we try to maximize their wealth, they will invest more in our company and the share prices will rise and there is no shortage of cash and the goodwill of the company will also increases. Now factors affecting dividend decision. So here again there are several factors and we have to learn each and every one, but in examination we have to write only maximum of 6 points, or if they are asked in the form of 4 points then 4 only. So first factor is earning. Earning means profit after tax. Dividend are paid out of current and past earning. Therefore, earning is a major determinant of decision about dividend. Here we have to decide whether we have to distribute dividend or not in all the points. So earning is the main factor. Suppose company is going in loss, then there is no chance of paying the dividend. But if earning is good or we have super profit, then in that particular case we can distribute the dividend or retain them. Next point, stability of earning. Stability of earning here means, suppose a company is earning rupees 10 lakh in the 2012, then 12 lakh in 2013, then 14 lakh in 2014 and so on. So every year they are increasing their profit with 2 lakh. So we can say they are constant and there is a stability in the earning. So if the company is in a stable position, then they can declare higher dividend. But if there is any fluctuation in the company earning and the fluctuation is very high, means last year they are getting a profit of 20 lakh and this year they are getting only 2 lakh. So if the company is such a surprising company and there is instability in their earning, then they are not able to distribute the dividend because they don't know what might happen. But if company is continuously growing with a stability, then they can declare the dividends. Next is stability of dividend. It is a policy of a company. Some companies want to create their goodwill by providing constant dividend to their shareholder or stabilizing them so that there is a confidence among the shareholder and they will increase our goodwill by word of mouth or by any way, and they will invest continuously because they know that they are getting regular dividend. Many shareholders are very worried because sometime they are getting dividend, sometime there is retained earnings, sometime company is going in loss. So there is various situations, but if the shareholder is happy or satisfied by investing in a particular company, it means that they will invest further in our company and also motivate some other person to invest in that particular company. So for such purpose, a company stabilize their dividend for winning the confidence. Next factor is growth opportunities. Many companies in which there are lot of growth opportunities nowadays, and there are certain companies also which is going at the stage of saturation. Suppose a company which is producing wax candles, so there is not too much opportunities for them and there are very less buyers of their product. But if a company is related to technology, there is lots of growth opportunities. So those companies who have more growth opportunities will distribute less dividend because they want to invest their income into the new projects. But if the company is in a saturation process, then they can declare higher dividend. Next point is cash flow position. Cash flow position may be strong or weak. If the cash flow position is strong, then they can declare the dividend. If cash flow position is weak, they cannot declare the dividend. Next point is shareholders preference. Shareholders are also the important part of our management, so their preference must be taken into notice, because in general meeting, if they want dividend this year, so we have to declare it, and if they want that the profit earned is reinvested into the business, then we can reinvest it. So it is totally dependent on their preference. Next point is taxation policy. The choice between payment of dividends and retained earnings is to some extent affected by the difference in the tax treatment of dividend. So you have to understand this. If tax on dividend is higher, then less dividend is given, and if tax on dividend is less, then we can give more dividend. And the dividend are free of tax in the hand of shareholder, but the dividend distribution taxes levied on the or imposed on the companies. Thus, under the present tax policy, shareholders are likely to prefer higher dividend. Next point is legal constraint. Certain provisions of the Companies Act place restriction on payout as dividend. Such provision must be adhered to while declaring the dividend. It means if there is a legal objection on the company that you cannot pay the dividend because of certain act, like they have borrowed too much from any bank or the debenture holder and they are not able to pay the interest, and they move to the court, and after the court's decision there is a restriction on the company that you are not, or in future you will not able to distribute the dividend, because first of all you have to pay the interest to the bank or the debenture holder. So it must be followed. Next point is stock market reaction. Now stock market has 4 phases, but we will focus only on 2. Investor in general view an increase in dividend as a good news, and stock prices react positively to it. Similarly, decrease in dividend may have a negative impact on the share prices. Thus, the possible impact of dividend policy on the equity share price is one of the important factors considered by the management while taking a decision about it. Means, if we declare dividend, the share prices of the company will increase. If we does not declare, the share prices might decrease. And next point is access to capital market. Large companies has easy access to the capital market, so they are less dependent on the retained earning. They always declare dividend, but the small companies does not get funds from the capital market, therefore they are totally dependent on retained earning, and therefore they are not able to pay the dividends. So it is also an important factor, access to. Next one is legal constraint. It is already done. Contractual constraint. While granting loans to a company, sometimes the lender may impose certain restriction on the payment of dividend in future. Suppose we have a contract with a lender or who has provided us credit, then we have to follow the rules of the contract. The company are required to ensure that the dividends does not violate the terms of loan agreement. So whatever written in the loan agreement must be followed. If it is written that first of all the interest will be paid, then we will pay the interest, and if something remains, then we can distribute as a dividend, and if nothing remains left out, then we cannot distribute the dividend.